Right.
He's on and Woody's on.
Okay.
Well, we're ready.
This is the regular monthly meeting or bi-weekly meeting of the Dayton Planning Board. I have 7:04 to call the meeting to order. You can all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just to confirm, our next meeting date will be February 18th here at 7 p.m. The first order of business, 4A, is a presentation by Serpent for proposed conservation bylaw revisions. You need
You would like us to stand?
a stand right there. It's fine. If you want to pull that out. That's good, yeah.
Yeah. It's, we're just trying to figure it out. Yeah. You mind if we just connect your Zoom? Have a brief presentation. Do I have to allow, right?
Actually, while you're doing that, I'm just going to read into the record a email from Jeff Cavallo, who's the chairman, was not able to be here tonight. So this is from Jeff Coelho, sent Saturday, January 31st. Carrie and team, I'm not able to attend this week's meeting. Please see my comment below on the draft bylaw. Michelle, thank you for all your work on this bylaw. It looks great. My comments, page 4, letter C, first word of line has extra space between the A and the L. Number 2, page 6, section 4371, the word area looks odd. Number 3, page 9, section 4440C, the last bullet shouldn't be listed here. Stormwater facilities located within the subdivisions shall be maintained in compliance with the town's stormwater bylaw and any associated long-term operations and maintenance OEM plans approved as part of the permitting process. This paragraph should be outside of open space O&M. Number 4, page 12, impact fees. I don't think we should include this. We haven't defined a structure for this and should strike from the bylaw. And the last bullet, number 5, page 12, section 4480. Second to the last word, orthodox, should be conventional subdivision instead, just for consistency of terms. Thank you, Jeff. But whenever you're ready.
He's emailing that, right? Or that's in an email?
That was an email that was sent on
Okay.
Saturday. He did send it to
Yes,
the board and to Michelle.
I did receive it. So
Okay, yeah.
I'll start off by confirming. So, brief introduction for those of you that don't know us, and I know we met quite a few of you several times before. I'm Michelle Tinger. I'm the environmental manager over at Serped, and I'm joined here.
Karen Pettinelli, I'm a principal natural resource planner. I've been working with Michelle on a few bylaw updates in this project.
So we wanted to just give you a very brief, and I'll really emphasize the brief presentation because I know we've gone before you to provide additional context, background information. Just wanted to mention that, here we are back again to talk a little bit more about the conservation subdivision bylaw. So in the past recent years, we have reviewed the master plan, the subdivision rules and regulations, the previous stormwater bylaw, the low impact development review and report that was completed a few years back, and have also taken the current bylaw and have compared it to Mass Audubon's bylaw review tool. In the past year, we've also done what we like to call a listening tour. We've gone through the Board of Selectmen, before you, the Planning Board, the Open Space Committee, Zoning Board of Appeal, all to really look back for feedback in terms of, we reviewed all of this work, we have a draft, did we get it right? Is there anything else that you would like for us to include, to review, to take into consideration, to fine tune when it comes to this conservation subdivision bylaw? So with this presentation, we wanted to just showcase the really high level changes when it comes to the original version of the conservation subdivision bylaw, and then the version that we've had in present day. I know from what I've heard recently, there were a few more comments that we're expected to receive, so we're always happy to continue to fine tune this. Our end goal is to make sure that we're providing you with a bylaw that you're content with in order to bring forward to your town meeting and move forward with that process. So some of the key changes included sections such as the purpose and intent. The original included that it was very broad. There was a narrative purpose that focused on the scenic beauty, agriculture, efficiency, and housing affordability. What we've done, and I'm just going to take a moment to minimize the box over here on our end. What we've done is we've taken that purpose and we've rewritten it to emphasize the development, the meaningful, usable open space, low impact development, reducing sprawl, considering public health and environmental protection, and then also adding very explicit objectives, what we would consider like a list of 12 here, that include recreational access, green infrastructure, map alignment, stormwater compliance, smart growth principles. Clarifying intent is also to not increase the density or make developable land buildable. The next component is applicability. So originally this would apply to 5+ lots in the residential district. What we've done is revise this so that the planning board is explicitly stated as the special permit granting authority. That was something that was already included, but we wanted to make sure that it was just clearly written out in the bylaw. The board may adopt rules and regulations. We also introduced a yield-based unit determination, unit caps, applicability to multifamily by special permit as well. Do you want to go through some of the changes as well?
Within those two,
Yeah, for the next few sections.
sorry, I wasn't planning it.
No, I can.
But it's okay. I mean, right, the procedure is essentially, instead of just a single development plan, there's a requirement to put forward the original plan, the conventional subdivision that would be there, and then the conservation subdivision one next to it. So you can look at both of them to see that the lots are the same, that you have the same number of lots in both designs. And yeah, this is different than just here, this is what we're planning to do. It's like shows you what you're getting essentially in comparison to that conventional plan. Yeah, right, and the conservation analysis requirement is really important. Instead of the developer just looking at the area and deciding where they want to put the houses, really intentionally looking at the conservation areas within the lot, within the parcel, to see where the best conservation spaces are and what their purpose would be, and to be thinking about that and proposing an analysis as well to show what the benefits of that conservation space are.
The other component, which includes the buffers, or the original language included a 50-foot property buffer and then a 100-foot wetland buffer. We've kept the buffers, but explicitly had this to apply to roads, driveways, septic, and utilities, prohibits reductions via special permit as well. This ties enforcement directly, or the updated bylaw ties enforcement directly to the Wetlands Protection Act. For lot modifications, originally the text included the lot size, the frontage, yard minimum, which was listed. What we've done is there's the same numeric standards, however, we've reorganized this just for a little clarity, and then framed explicitly that the special permit granting authority, the planning board, has this and can use it as at their discretion as you see fit. For density and yield, the original language included that density is based on a reasonable conventional yield. There was no formula, there were no absolute caps. We've changed that a little bit to include a more formal yield calculation. This is something that we've seen typically done in these types of bylaws. Net acreage deductions for wetlands are included, for floodplains, slopes, water supply buffers, and infrastructure. We've also going back to just including language that clarifies things, explicitly stating that there are unit caps. So that would be 40 units for standard, 60 for if there's an affordability or a senior housing component. There's a yield plan that's required, and then the burden of proof is going to be on the applicant when they do go before you to showcase that information.
And I'll just add to that this point about the developable land versus if it's not developable already, whether you're considering that part of the open space or not. And in the yield formula, you want to be sure to remove the wetlands before doing the yield formula. So you're not, it's an important piece to consider, because if you're just looking at a conventional yield without first subtracting your wetland areas and the calculation for the open space, is to not include those. Although in the bylaw that's specific, you can use, I think 20% of your open space can be wetlands, but yeah, anyway, just so that gets factored in additionally.
And then the original for open space, this was, I will say, one of those hotter topics. When we went around to do listening tours, we talked about 20% open space, 25% wetlands cap, and limiting the detail on usability. This was something that went back and forth. We heard from folks that they wanted to keep it the same, they wanted to change it, to increase it, and so on, because there was so many varying there was varying different information related to this. We just wanted to note that that seems to be something that needs continuous conversation. For the sake of the bylaw updates, we've just kept it as is so that you can further progress these conversations and maybe have another meeting as is needed. For maintenance and enforcement, the original language had very basic HOA language. What we've done is added open space maintenance plan to be included as part of the application, the town enforcement authority, lien provisions, operation and maintenance, requirements for stormwater systems, and equal protection standards for public versus private open space. And the last hot topic, I'll call it, is the density bonus as well. This was another one that folks went a little back and forth on. Originally, the town did not have any kind of density bonus provision within the bylaw. We've included one that adds up to 20% density bonus, which is a point-based system. We use an example from Rochester, which is also a more rural type of community, something that we've heard is successful based on board members that we've had conversation with, as well as town planners. So we wanted to see if maybe this was something that the town would be interested in their bylaw as well. There are incentives for affordable housing, agriculture, forestry, recreation, connectivity, and visual screenings. There are also absolute caps that have been applied to these density bonus, this density bonus section after we had heard feedback from several boards, committees, and commissions that we went before. But same as the open space, that was another topic that is up for further conversation and dialogue. So we just wanted to bring that to your attention as well when it comes to these bylaw updates. Yes.
I can add to the density bonus piece.
Absolutely.
We did a regional peer-to-peer program essentially on density bonuses to hear why certain communities include them and why others don't. And really the takeaway we found is that essentially, developers are going to go with the path of least resistance. So if you have a special permit requirement for your conservation subdivision, it disincentivizes it essentially. And there's all these requirements, and it's also just not business as usual. They have the thing that they do. So in order to really get a conservation subdivision into your community, incentivizing it can help with the density bonus. It offsets maybe additional costs in planning and moving through the special permit granting authority. So if there's something you want to see in your community that are good, they're a way to help developers move that direction.
So we wanted to also share that we did create some engagement materials for you as well. So once you do progress your bylaw to the next phase, we've put together a brochure that just goes into what an open space residential bylaw typically is. In your case, we've called it what you have it in your bylaw, which is conservation subdivision. It just gives a little background context as to what that is. And then have also included contact information. So in this case, we have Carrie on there. If folks have any questions for any permitting reasons, they can connect with her. We've put together a developer guide as well, which just goes into how to submit a formal application before the board, how it gets reviewed, what is typically included within that bylaw. All of that in the conservation subdivision developers guide can be subject to change based on any updates that there continue to be within your bylaw, just to make sure that there are synergies between the two. The last thing is a flyer too. So eventually when you do go to take this to your town meeting, you have a working flyer that you can use to advertise this, to inform folks that there is going to be a more formal public meeting held. There'll be further discussion. So we wanted to just share that we have produced some engagement materials as well that go together with the bylaw updates. The last thing we'll note is a few months ago, perhaps in October, Karen, correct me if I'm wrong on that, we did hold a public meeting here as well. So we welcomed folks to come in, provide us with any information, any feedback, any pain points, any areas that they would like included as well. So we do always make it a point to make sure that the public is welcome to provide some context information, anything that we can help to further refine your bylaw. So that's really it in terms of our presentation. I try to keep it very short and sweet because I know we've been here several times, so I want to be mindful of your time and also appreciate any further feedback that you have, any next steps that you would like to see in terms of Serpent being able to assist you with refining your bylaws.
Yeah, I did a couple questions, but first, I appreciate it, and I understand that reading through it, a lot of the content that you've provided is not identical. It's the same content that we currently have, but we just don't have it explicitly stated. There's a lot of things that are implied, and but you've just taken it and you make it very explicit, so to avoid any confusion. So I know personally I've been tripped up in the past with simple things like the calculation of the percentages and that kind of thing, just making it very clear. There were some changes, though. I did have some questions about them. So one is, you mentioned the 12 reasons for why we would have a conservation subdivision. I noticed that although you mention it later in the document regarding agriculture and forestry, it seemed to not be included on that initial list.
So can you just share which section?
4310, where you list the 12 items for the objectives. Oh, I'm sorry, you do have agriculture and forestry, number 1. Okay, that's good. All right, my mistake. The second one in 4320, where you mentioned this bylaw may also apply to multifamily developments. My understanding is that is a true statement, but it's already covered because of our what's in Appendix A, our use regulation schedule. So I'm just not a favor of like stating the same thing in two places because inevitably they get out of sync. Down the road, somebody makes a change, they change one part and forget to change the other part. So personally, I would just like remove that. It's already covered and it's already a true statement, but because of our existing appendix showing the, how and where multi-use families can, housing can be developed.
I presented to Middleborough last week, and at the end, someone in the public said, does this mean we're allowing multifamily in these developments? And in Middleborough's, it doesn't explicitly state anything about
Okay.
multifamily in the bylaw, but I think it can be confusing since it is sort of a separate type of development, whether it applies to single family only. I hear what you're saying, though, if you change something else, you would want this to coordinate. So we could write something in there, like as allowed in section.
In Appendix A,
Right.
Reference it.
schedule of use,
These
yeah.
types of
That's-
housing units will be allowed, so that
Yeah.
it's understood that within
Right.
those same,
It's
yeah.
same laws
Right.
apply, right? Okay. The next item was 4331, and I'm actually going to ask Carrie to explain if she can, point you were making about the sentence in here that begins, conservation subdivision shall conform to the requirements for a preliminary subdivision plan. I think you had a question about the wording there and exactly what the intent
Was
was.
it that one? I didn't think it was that one. I
Okay,
have a note on it. I think it was a different section.
okay.
Bear with me. I didn't have a note on that one.
But honestly,
So was that from our discussion?
this afternoon, yeah. I don't actually know what a preliminary subdivision plan is under
Oh.
our divisions. There's no such thing as preliminary subdivision plans.
Well, we do have a procedure that a developer can come in with a preliminary plan.
Right,
And do that presentation.
right, but this doesn't, there's no requirements around that.
Right.
It says it's
I
the
see.
requirements of the preliminary, so I just want to make sure we knew.
What page
What
are
was-
you on?
I'm on page 2, section 4331, development plans. I think it's like the third sentence in begins, conservation subdivision development plan shall conform to the requirements for a preliminary subdivision plan. I don't think you mean preliminary, but I'm not quite sure what you were being saying.
Yield plan?
So that's the original language. If that's something that you would like us to look further into, we can certainly do that.
Oh, that's in our current language?
Yes, correct.
Oh, okay. It's the kind of reason we need to make things more explicit, so thank you. So yeah, but there are no requirements under a preliminary subdivision plan that I'm aware of, so.
So I guess should that say the conform to the requirements of a definitive subdivision plan?
I think it's a conventional, it would be a conventional subdivision, plan, right? If you want the language to be consistent,
Hmm.
I think, right? Going along with your president's comment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It should be conventional, correct?
Right.
okay, I just wanted to make sure we were understanding the point. The next item that I have, I'm just gonna skip over the dwelling units and then bonus come back to that. Originally, we had a minimum of 20% of the parcels shall be set aside as permanently protected, and not more than 25% of such ocean space shall be wetlands. You're seeing in the way you've laid out the yield, it completely removes wetlands as a component, or any protected, I should say, protected undevelopable land as a component in the calculations?
You're looking at page 6 or page 7?
Yes. The 4,400, which is, yes, page 6,
Oh,
Is that page
44,
there?
okay. So-
4,400, sorry.
Okay, so we're just here, some of the open space requirements. I think what you're allowing, or you allowed in your previous bylaw, was it 20 or 25% of the open space can be wetland?
Yes,
Right, yeah, I think that's stayed, right?
Yes.
And the minimum 20% that's just the amount that's set aside as open space.
okay. I thought I just heard in your presentation, you were saying the way you've laid out the yield plan, no wetlands can be calculated in?
No, she was
The
saying,
Commercial
she
area.
was saying, before we do the math, subtract the wetlands first.
And then,
Correct.
Do your equation, then 20% of that can be wetlands, correct?
Yes.
okay, so,
So that we're not, let's say it's a 7-acre parcel, 4 of it's wetlands. We're not calculating the whole 7 and then saying, okay, 20% is open space on the 7. 20% is gonna be on the 3.
3, gotcha. And of the 3, 25% might be wetlands.
Correct.
But- Okay,
Correct.
all right, okay. I'm not quite sure how to word it down the road, only because for better or for worse, we do have a across the board way of calculating the yield plan. For subdivisions for this, it's all the same. Unless there's a compelling reason, I'm not quite sure why we would change it. I think maybe the way we say yield plans are to be calculated is a little vague right now, but it's vague across the board for everything. And if we change it, for the reason that it's vague, I think it's a kind of a global change we should be looking at, not a conservation subdivision specific calculation change. So I wouldn't really want to include it in this, but it's something that I think the board might think about down the road for like, how do we clarify how we do yield calculations, period? So we may have to reword it a little bit to do what you just described with whatever new definition we come up with, or if we keep that definition, how to bake that into it, so.
Sure.
All right. Let's see. The other comment I had was on 4440, ownership and maintenance. And this is existing. It says the required open space shall at the owner's election be conveyed to one of the following. And that's what we have now. You've basically said the same thing. You've reworded a little bit. I've always thought it should be at the owner's election and with the consent of the permitting authority, not you just do whatever you want, and ideally it's even part of the whole 4-stage process. It's one of those things that gets decided way up front, like not only what parcel you're setting land, how's the layout going to look, but how's the land going to be disposed to the town, to a conservation agency, to the HOA. I think it really should be moved way up front, and that it be a joint discussion. It's not just like after the fact, the developer telling us what they intend to do, so.
Is that page 9?
Yes,
That is page 9.
Yeah.
Here it says, yeah. And in Middleborough, we had this conversation to also clarify owner, because they were like, wait, who's the owner? Or so we said, owner of the land or developer, essentially.
yeah,
And we also added in Middleborough's bylaw that if it's conveyed to the town, it's free of acquisition cost. There's certain language around that.
yeah, the whole owner, I didn't actually understand the importance of that, what you had changed. But Carrie weighed in and she thought it was actually really important because it actually does lead to confusion sometimes. the new language is actually much preferred.
Clear, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then my last point was actually around the density bonuses, and I do understand, incentivizing people to go with this type of model versus just a conventional that involves more sprawl. I'm just not comfortable with it being so prescriptive, like 2 points for this, 3 points for this, you add up the totals, this is what you get. I'd be more comfortable with it saying like, the planning board has the authority to give density bonuses. These are the things we look at when we make that decision, but it not be like, and if you meet this magic number, this is what you're going to get. I can understand the developer wanting that kind of clarity. It's like, if I do these 5 things, I can put in an extra 5 houses. But I'm just not comfortable with it being so prescriptive and kind of out of the hands of the planning board. That's just my personal opinion.
So in this instance, are you just saying that just remove or strike out the points earned?
Basically, yeah. Yeah.
Because then it almost seems like we have to do it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And then, yeah, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I think we'd kind of all be in agreement on that.
Those are my only points, but I do, I appreciate all the work. It's, and it's definitely an improvement in terms of just, even without changes, it's just a better.
It's a better read.
It's a better read, yeah, and clearer read. So, yeah,
Thank you.
thanks. Have you had any
No,
comments?
I was gonna echo your point on the bonus point thing, and then, yeah, no, just much better to read now. It's much more understandable. Like the average person can read this, where before, it's a little antiquated, but it's very good. Thank you.
So we have Joe and Woody on Zoom. I don't know if either one of you have comments.
I'm all set, Dan.
Okay. Any public input? Yeah.
Thank you. For the record, Leonard Hull, 760 Main Street. 3 things. Does the board have a timetable as to when this will be presented before the town for a vote?
My understanding was that there was a goal that this be ready for town meeting.
I think
don't know if
there
that's-
was some indication that they wanted to try to go to annual town meeting, but it doesn't sound like we're even near that yet from the comments that you were making.
I do believe that we can definitely make edits based on the comments that we're receiving right now. But it sounds like maybe there are more comments that are going to be presented before us, so we're really seeking to you and the town in terms of what your next steps are. Do you potentially anticipate a joint board meeting? Would you provide us with further comments via email? How would you like to go about those next steps? Serpent is more than happy to further assist, and again, we're here to make it as easy as possible for you too, but we're just waiting to see what those next steps may potentially be.
The second question had to do about the wetlands and open space.
Mhm.
Open Space Committee had made a recommendation of separating conservation, wetland from open space and figuring out making the determination of how much land would be used for building. In this case, the planning board would make the final decision as to whether it would be wetlands separated from open space or not included in the open space percentage. Is that correct?
Well, I think the planning board would be the final, because of the zoning change, would be the final ones to put a recommendation before the selectmen to go onto the warrant. So that's a true statement. I think we've already heard one caveat to how we do it today, which kind of addresses a little bit of, which is what you were explaining about
Right.
the example you gave about if you had 7 acres and 4 of it was wetlands, you deduct the 4 before you figure out the percentage and
Right,
all of that. So it looks like that some of that language was incorporated.
okay,
But in terms of your first question, I think, yes, the planning board would be the final draft authority for whatever is going to wind up on the warrant, just because of the nature of it.
and the third question, in regards to the point system. A more definitive point system, does that decrease the chance of challenges in court? Because if it's not definitive, it becomes subjective, and you run the risk of not being consistent and being looked upon as being biased. Is there legal benefits to having a point system for liability for the board in the town?
I believe if you were strictly looking at like, what can we do to prevent a potential lawsuit? Then absolutely. If you had a point system, it's like, you do this, you get this, you get this, you get this, you add it up total, everybody's equal. But the reality is that we know that not every parcel is the same, not every neighborhood is the same. Not all their butters feel the same. There's other factors that come into play. So I don't personally think that's really practical to do it that way. But from your point about like avoiding a lawsuit, yeah, I'm sure a point system helps tremendously in us evading that, but I don't know if that means it's necessarily the best avenue for us, but. Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah. So are there any other comments or? I think,
I had a couple,
Okay, sure.
just more editorial type things. So on page 1, under the bullet, well, the number points, number 5, I think you have to remove that number 6. I think that's supposed to be one sentence.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, there should be.
And then on page 4, the letter C, where it says a line, it should be one word, a line.
So
See how that's,
I think when you do the.
I don't know if it's the
Except for
formatting.
track changes.
Yeah,
I'll clean it up.
This is
Yes.
yeah,
The track changes make a mess.
they do, I know.
But that's good to note
Note
so
for
that
that,
it's not
100%.
missed once the track changes are removed, yeah.
And then on page 8, that last sentence at the very bottom, it says ant, should be any.
What does it say?
So on section where it says E, in the very last sentence where it says protected open space toward ant further building requirements, it should say any. See, it's at the very bottom of the page, page 8,
It's 420A, 444.
4420, section E.
Oh, E. Oh, I guess our
Yeah,
pages are.
sorry.
different. That's okay. Yeah.
And then I had a question, and actually I think it was more from you, on section 4440. Last bullet point was stormwater facilities. Should that be a bullet or should that be a paragraph on its own? Because it's, I don't think that's an option.
It says the homeowner association. Just giving.
Because I think
yeah, I think the point
it's
was,
not gonna be conveyed to one of the, well, it's not gonna be, it's not one of the following. I think the stormwater, they need to have the stormwater facilities. Right, I'm not sure that should be a bullet point included in the bullets.
Seems like it's just trying to pull it out, like if it's an HOA,
Yeah,
But I hear, it doesn't need to be in that, because that should be essentially, that's applied to the whole bylaw
right,
instead of part of the HOA specifically.
right, and actually,
All of these apply to the whole.
Vice Chairman, I think we also determined when we were discussing that, or looking at it.
Okay, yeah, so it's not supposed to be under C, it's supposed to be a new, it should be each new bullets, like D, something like that. Okay,
I think what we had said was that, one, putting the fact that an HOA needs to establish is not really necessary because that's a requirement anyway for stormwater purposes,
Correct.
that you form an HOA. So adding it here doesn't add relevant data any meaning. It's kind of out of place. It's a given anyway. It's kind of the same issue that Jeff had identified with the last bullet on page 9, which is this is kind of outside of the whole
The
stormwater
Yeah.
bylaw. It's kind of on its own legs. It's part of, our rules and regs and the stormwater bylaws period, so.
So I guess the question is, do we want, since it's a requirement anyways for a subdivision,
right.
it's like duplicate language, I don't know if we actually want that in there.
It just like refer to.
Or
Just refer to-
zoning bylaw,
Yeah.
Which I think it said somewhere else in here.
So I guess just as it relates to stormwater, then, do you have an update in terms of where the bylaw is? I know we've tried connecting with the stormwater committee or the chairperson, and they were in the midst of updating it. So we try to just keep any stormwater related information here as general as possible, so it ties back to any updated stormwater bylaw. But we have not been provided any update in terms of.
That's still a true statement. We're still in the midst of doing it, so.
Yeah. I can double check. And then the last comment I had was on section 4480 for decision. That last, but it says, after assessing whether the conservation subdivision better promotes the objectives herein, then would orthodox development. Should that say then would be a conventional subdivision? The SPGA may approve the conditions or deny an application for a conservation subdivision after assessing whether the conservation subdivision better promotes the objectives herein than would a conventional subdivision?
Right, I think that's what the comment was.
That was Jeff's comment, so yeah.
Oh, what, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
sorry.
And that's all I had.
So I'm not sure, depending upon our schedule and when our chairman will be back for the next meeting, we want to put this back on the agenda for continued review since we do have some topics to discuss, but
Yeah.
I know our next meeting is kind of busy, but knowing that we want
I
to,
think it might not be as busy as I
Okay,
thought
all right.
now, because there was a late filing, so it's gonna
Okay.
extend the peer review out a little bit more.
I'll just leave that to you and Jeff, just know that
Okay.
we are trying to track to the next June town meeting.
Yeah.
Whether we do or not remains to be seen, but we're trying to wrap it up in time to put it on there, so, yeah. Great.
Does that sound good to you? I'll talk to Jeff and then our next meeting is February. Thank you, 18th, if you're available. And then we'll touch base and I'll connect with our chairman, solidify that date.
That works.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is you discuss act on the revised development flow chart. I would recommend tabling this because it's a topic that Jeff would like to be able to weigh in on. So have to take a motion to table that or no?
No.
No, okay. 2026 annual report.
I would table that as well. Jeff's not here, usually I give him a copy of the, or a draft annual report.
Okay, all right. Approval of meeting minutes for January 21st. Everybody said it, there was a revised version that came out most recently. If everybody's had a copy to review that, somebody wants to make a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I think because we have members on Zoom, we have to do it by roll call, so. First,
Robert Woods is an aye.
Dan Higgins is an aye.
Chris Cunha, aye.
3 ayes, 1 abstention. Any correspondence?
None.
Any additional public input? No. Right, and I have a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Right, thank you. Good night, Cable.
Good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you, Woody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Have a good night.
Thank you so much. Thanks, you too.